Hi, my name is Hans, and I'd like to welcome you to the Founder's Story. The audience back then, still today, are other founders, keen on learning their stories, their challenges, how they overcome them, and make them become the startups who they are today. And from this very little room, it grew to this.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 11th episode of the Founder Story here in our Google office in Zurich. Welcome very much. Hands up for whom it is the first time here tonight. Wow, every time the room is half full, and we always welcome the newcomers, but also the returners. And I think I've seen already Rihanna before. You have seen her in the trailer today. There she is as a guest and not a panelist. So also welcome and enjoy the show. And I hope you're in for a treat as well, this time from the other side. And for those who are here for the first time, you might know what's going to come next. But if I take out my phone, some of you others, though, will know what I'm going to do next. Selfie, exactly. So it's a cool moment, and you guys are a cool crowd, so why not capture it? But before I start, why not doing something else this time? Why don't we just take all a selfie of this room? Okay, yeah, sure. Let's give it a try. Okay, take out your phone, because you were already silencing it before for the event. Thank you very much for that. And let's just take some pictures, because I'm going to do that out here. I'm going to capture that moment. We have the panelists lined up over there. And here. Usually I'm a very bad selfie taker, so don't you worry that if you're not so very happy. And so, Felix, so happy to see you as well. Welcome. And you know exactly what's going to come next, because as you all might have spotted already, we do have a hashtag here, the Founder Story GCP. And I'm going to post that picture later onto my LinkedIn and sharing all the impressions and lessons learned from the panelists we have lined up today, because usually there's a lot of learnings, a lot of insights they share. And it's exactly this what we receive as a gift in return from all the community out there. We're amazed episode by episode to see how many of you take away with so many great insight and sometimes become really vulnerable even on such an open platform and talk about what you have learned, your pitfalls, and how you overcome that. And that is exactly why we do what we do here with the Founder Story, because we want to bring you the stories from founders to founders, all of you here in this room, because sometimes it is the learnings from others which help you prevent a massive pitfalls on your end. And on the other hand, sometimes your massive pitfalls could be a great learning for other founders out there. Also at this time, I really want to thank the collaborators, because it really goes with the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think it's fair to say that being a founder out there, sometimes you need exactly that ecosystem of supporters out there. And we're very happy tonight, for the very first time, we announced that Forbes and the ETH AI Center become collaborators of this platform. So thank you very much. And other words of thank you, I want to start now with my first guest joining on here on the stage. As you've seen in the video before, the Founder Story is now an international format, but this next guest, the person, have seen this becoming that from the very first date. And joining us on stage, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Bianca Entz for a fireside chat, Head of Sales Switzerland and Austria, Google Cloud.
Thanks.
Wow, Bianca,
Ooh.
What a great crowd tonight.
Yeah, wow.
Really, really cool.
Look how it started. And
Yeah.
we've seen that in the video.
We've
Super
seen it
nice.
in the video. It was a really tiny room. In
Yeah.
fact, it's actually the room next door.
I remember very well.
Yeah. Well, hands up, who of those have been in that very first episode, Andrea? I mean, I can name you all because it was only 12 founders.
That's true. That's true.
Right. So, yeah, 2 years ago, it's been a journey. So looking back, can you walk us through what was the initial conversation we had? How did the whole idea actually become what it is today of the founder story?
Yeah, super interesting. I mean, you invented it together with Silvana, who is in the room as well, and actually was a co-founder of the founder story jointly with you. It was right after pandemic 2 years ago. And you came up with this idea of saying, look, we are taking care for digital native companies. We want to help them more, but we see that they need more than just pitches about technologies. So that's basically what Google typically provides, and probably other vendors as well. And you actually came up and said, we want to fill this room with 300 people, and I want to have the budget for just it. And I was like, ooh, we're just right after pandemic. I don't even know if we can fill a room, if we're allowed to fill a room, and if we have the right content that people are interested in that. And you basically went for lunch 12 times, if I remember correctly, and figured out what are the patterns. So what is it that is on top of those 12 founders' heart and minds, and how can we help? And you found those patterns, and they were all around, like, how do you do in sales? How do you grow your company? How do you do with VCs and stuff like that? And it changed over those 2 years. Today, it's all about AI, because that is top of everybody's mind at the moment. So basically, this is how it started. And you didn't need the budget for, like, the 300 people in the first place. It was just the 12 people that had lunch, and we just came together. But look where we are today. I mean, how big is the community in the meantime?
I think we're, for Switzerland, the size of 800.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's 800 in Switzerland. Plus, I know that we launched it now. I mean, you invented it really in Switzerland, so it's Swiss-made. And then we really launched it in 11 other countries. So they copy-pasted the concept and brought it to all of those other 11 countries. So super, super impressive, I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I think from my perspective also, it is really the evidence that the platform works, right? It works in a huge startup hub like Berlin and Tel Aviv, but it also works in smaller hubs, you know, where they just invited a few founders into the Google office there, provided some pizza and beer like the early days of Google, and had a great exchange, right? So it works in every sizes and shapes of the startup hubs. So fast forwarding to today, 2 years down the road, as we saw before, across 11 countries, what are the learnings and the patterns coming out from Founder Story we can really emphasize today? Because I think it's fair to say, you mentioned it before, it was right after the pandemic, right? So starting a new event was kind of like rare. But now I think this year, at least it feels like for me, it is fair to say we have our fair share of events happening out there again. We have our fair share of communities and collaboration. So what are the things you have observed with Founder Story which kept it going, which makes it still a platform where people want to come back? I mean, we look around this room, right? It is still a format to bring people together. So what are the things you have observed why the format is what it is?
I mean, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the ones that are really living this format and coming back or coming for the first time. You hear about others. So for me, it is this community, right? So we are living in a time where everything happens much faster than when we all started some years ago or even before the pandemic. It's getting crazy around us, I'd say. And to stay on top of all the development and everything, it's overwhelming. So it's probably almost impossible. And having a community that helps us navigate, understand where others are doing this and how they are doing that, what are the important topics, how can we navigate through this uncertainty as well, because with this rapid amount of change, a lot of uncertainty comes as well. So learning from others, contributing to others' successes, I think this sense of a community is different to going to a typical marketing or sales related event where you, at the end of the day, should get out with something that has been sold to you, which is not the sense of why we are here. So it's really about the community itself that helps us. Plus, I'd say why it works in Switzerland. So And I hear that, by the way, because I'm not only taking care for digital native companies, so the more traditional companies, the large corporate companies, other teams that I'm taking care for are taking care for those companies as well. And the need there is to stay on top as well. Again, why works this format in Switzerland? For me, everything that you can produce is much cheaper available outside of Switzerland. Much cheaper. We are one of, if not the most expensive country. I'm sorry. So you enjoy our apéro. So the need for innovation to stay against this competition that is around us is a high need that everybody has. And therefore, I think this kind of community and the Swiss nature is the community building, so we are here for the others. This is why it actually works in Switzerland. And we probably have a higher need than other countries in this sense.
Yeah, and the low-cost competition doesn't just go for like traditional companies, manufacturing companies, even like digital native companies that we have today, right? It's easier to hire coders from somewhere abroad. It's easier to hire remote people, right? But the point of coming together and really foster that innovation. Actually, I mean, and some people have told us in the previous episode, you know what? The panels are great, but the networking part is really why I come here from, right? Yeah. And that follows actually a concept we also embed into when we create buildings here at Google, right? So all of you know probably from the media, you know, we have like those micro kitchens, we have those hangout areas, right? And there seem to be just like places to hang out, but they actually go after a concept which we call the casual collision, right? So when you casually collide into someone away from your desk, you're more likely to exchange ideas on what you've been working on, what you've been struggling with, because then you filter it down to what's really the essence of the problem. And that is one of the basic principles of how we foster innovation, right?
And I mean, you live that with Founder Story, I think, because you're inventing a concept by testing it a little in the market, but pure invention out of your mind and your idea. And we always have this 10x thinking, so don't want to just double it. We really want to go 10x. And growing from 12 to 800 and then 11 countries, I think that's amazing. So by just having this kind of culture deeply in our concept, I think that helps.
Community. So this is something we started off with the digital native community, but let's jump into a little bit of the outlook, specifically 2024. What can we expect with your now head on for Switzerland and Austria from a view of Google Cloud? What is community building looking like going forward?
So for me, and that is already a guidance that I've given to the different teams, this is core. Right? So community is one very, very core aspect that we're not only doubling down thinking about 10x, because that is what drives us all. And to foster that exchange and then at the end foster the innovation, I think that is one of the core elements of our go-to-market next year. So we have that with a Founder Story. You've heard that already, and I'm very curious what your next concept is going to look like for 2024, because you promised already it's going to be different. So I'm curious myself, Hans. And then we have other communities that have either been built or will be created very shortly in the more traditional areas around verticals or around developers or other areas, because that is a strong belief of us to build and to foster those communities. So I'm curious as well to hear from you super soon how it's going to look like.
We're not going to reveal anything, but one thing we can say at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back 2024 with the Founders' third season.
Yeah,
definitely.
Looking forward.
So thank you all very much also for
Thank
that.
you.
So with some closing remarks, are there any last words to the audience again today you want to address?
Only a thank you, right? I mean, this whole format doesn't work out if you don't feed back what you need. And that is an open invitation to grab everybody in any kind of format, be here, be present, exchange, learn and exchange and share what your experiences are, because I think that helps us all, and it is the part of being a community. So big thank you for staying with us, and hopefully you are going to continue our journey jointly in 2025. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So also, again, thank you from my side, Bianca. It was really
Thanks, Hans.
happy to support this great community. And ladies and gentlemen, Bianca.
Thanks
and
once again.
Thank you. Big words from Google, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for being who you are. And yeah, having said that, let's dive into today's topic. I hope you all cozied up with the fireside chat background I have built for you before, and you didn't get caught in the Christmas market outside, because I can promise it's a bit drier in here. So let's kick it off. Why are we here today, and what is the topic we're going to cover? So what you see here on this graph is actually I pulled it from trends.google.com. And for those who don't know this site, it is a site where you can basically type in any search queries people put in on Google, and we tell you how many people are searching for this one term out there. So I want you to all kind of shout out what you think it might be, what you see here on this graph. It could be anything people search on Google. It could be the Christmas market outside. It could be, I don't know, Taylor Swift's new album. I think I want a little bit off the roof as well. So what can this graph represent? You must have seen our keynote. It is really the shortest term I've ever put into this tool, and in fact, it's correct. It's how people were searching for the term AI. It went off the roof, and I think this is the evidence that it was just not a bias from tech companies like us that we say, look, this is a great year and this is a great boom, but it's actually, in fact, people out there searching for it, really trying to understand. And I'm very, very excited today to have panelists coming who put AI as the core of their company and are really conquering the market with the mission, what they're doing out there. So, before I invite my panelists soon on stage, I want you to invite and participate, because this is actually something which came out of the feedback we got from you out there, is that sometimes you hear them talking about something on the panelists soon that you want to contribute, you want to dive deeper into the question, you want to make a comment on what they have said, you want to double down on things, and with that QR code, it will lead you to a Mentimeter in which you can then post your questions. For those who don't know Mentimeter, you can post a question, so if you click on the bottom, ask or open a question, I think is the button, you can then also see other people's question, and you can upvote others' question. So the ones with the most upvotes, in the end of the panel discussion, we have 5 to 10 minutes to pick the most pressing questions to then address it to the panelists. I'll give you a few more seconds to scan it. And for those who don't have good internet in here, actually it's a very well-shielded room. You can log into the Google Guest Wi-Fi. You don't need a password for that. And then you can also log into the Mentimeter with your phone. So I'll give you a few more seconds, and I start seeing people taking down the phone. You can also take a picture if you're not fast enough, and then you can also sign into it. Good. Let's introduce our panelists. And as you know, we always like to give a little bit of a human touch of our panelists, because being a founder of successful startups, it feels like you invest 36 hours a day into making your baby actually really work. Yes, I did say 36, even though there's only 24 hours. And that's exactly the point. Sometimes they come with all shapes and sizes and hobbies, which makes them a little bit more human and not just the title of their company. And so I want you to guess if the next fact might be true or false about the founder I'm about to introduce. Manuel, who's going to join me soon on stage, was in fact, outside being a leader of his company, he is a 3-time karate world champion. Crazy, right? Being joined by a martial arts here on a stage. Hands up who thinks this is actually a true story of the next person joining me on stage. Okay, a few. Maybe there's some martial arts people in there like, oh, okay, that's actually achievable. Could be true, right? It's actually false, but in fact, he came really, really close to it. He was twice vice European champion in karate. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Manuel Heuer. I'm glad you didn't come with a backflip or something like that.
Can't hurt the fly.
You can't. So my next panelist, Sasha, is, I think, from that perspective of the topic, could be called a real inventor. So much so that she has filed at least two dozens of patents, of which some of you might interact on a day-to-day basis with. So hands up who think this is a true story of a real inventor as a founder, or you think, well, okay, let's tune it out, 20 patents. It's too crazy for a human being even to file in the first place. Hands up who you think this could be something she actually did. Great. In fact, this is true, and we will hear later about where this hobby comes from, but please welcome, join me on stage, Sasha Schriber. So my third founder, before we start with the panel discussion, as we learned today, we love to mingle with like-minded people. And it is others' ideas sometimes will push us to the limits, and when we can learn from great people, then our own company become better. This panelist, Philippe, pushes that idea so much that in fact he managed to go camping this year with Elon Musk. And you all have seen what Elon Musk is doing this year, so it's crazy. And finding that time in his agenda, do you think he went to that length to scrape off some time with him? And how long do they actually go camping together? Hands up who think this is actually a true fact, or this is just too crazy because no one can grab Elon Musk for a camping trip. Well, you shall be disappointed. He, in fact, has been on a camping trip this year with Elon Musk, and I'm excited to hear what he has learned from that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage, Philippe. So, welcome all, and happy to have you on the stage. And we'll go to fashion. We learn a little bit about your personality, and some people here in the audience might even know your company, but let's go through the round real quick. Manuel, you're the Chief Operating Officer at dacadoo. Dacadoo has been around for a little bit of time already, I think 12 years by now. So tell us what dacadoo does. Good talk, sister. Yeah.
Sure. Wait. Sorry. Beginning mistake. So dacadoo, hi everyone. dacadoo is a Swiss-based health tech company who focuses on lifestyle of people and helping users to adopt healthier lifestyles. And we do that in a B2B2C go-to-market strategy. So we work with different distribution channels to bring our solutions to market. That's one side, so a holistic health, digital health platform. On the other side, we have built a metric to measure health and wellness in near real time. And we have some engines who calculate health risks that are also used as APIs in the markets around the world. And we're today present in 40 markets, 40 countries around the world. Based out of Switzerland. And I'm not the founder. I joined the founder, who's this crazy serial entrepreneur from half Danish, half Swiss. And I didn't know him before, and he was looking for a COO to help him build up the business because he's full of ideas and shoots left and right every day. And he needs somebody who builds up the daily business, and that was me. But I joined when it was a PowerPoint slide, and I got hooked by the idea to quantify health and wellness in real time and actually simplify this complex intangible into a simple number of where you are in your lifestyle choices. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and we will dive into that in a second later. But like grasping the amount of data you guys are capturing is really, really magnificent, and because it's not just normal data we know from our health trackers, but also extended ones from in and around the ecosystem too, right?
That's correct. So when we ventured out to build this engine, we actually glued together more than 150, nearly 200 scientific studies that can be used for commercial purposes, and this is grown to huge engine of over 300 million people years of scientific data. We obviously had to work on how do we work with that data and how do we manage this data, and we obviously use machine learning elements in it. It is sensitive data, so it's personal health information and personal identifiable information, so we need to be very careful on how we use these technologies. But that was the initial idea to create this engine. Yeah.
Machine learning and health. Very, very interesting topic. We're soon going to dive that into it. But let me first move on to Sasha. NANOS.ai. Does that have anything with nanochips? How does that connect to patents? Tell us a little about, you founded NANOS. What do you do? And what problem does it help tackle?
Well, it does connect to nanochips a little bit, because when I came up with the idea of nanos, I was still working at Disney, so it's connected to Disney patents as well. I was working on at that time. And I was thinking about marketing and advertisement while I was working at Disney, because I saw how marketing teams at Disney were struggling with big budgets and management of the big funds for big budgets. And I thought, how cool would that be to create a technology that would help anybody to manage small budget campaigns. So back in the days, 2016, 2017, I started to think about nanos. Now what we know as nanos, as the technology, and we did early experiments, of course patented those as well. And now, today, nanos is a technology that enables pretty much anybody to create place and optimize online advertisements across global platforms like Google and others, and also local platforms. We are currently active in Europe, in Switzerland, and in Germany.
Great. So coming from Disney, you saw the painstaking process of how long it could take really to create content, good quality content also, because that is sometimes a differentiator for great marketing campaigns, right? And that it shouldn't be left to only the ones with the largest budget, but it can be streamlined, and that specifically using the power of AI, right?
Exactly. My first dozen of patents was related to content creation, and also in virtual augmented reality using AI, and now I'm fully focused on the marketing.
Yeah, so very great. So content marketing with the power of AI. We're going to dive into that as well. And I'm very excited to see that we have very different industry we can disrupt with AI. So Phil, Yokoy, probably a lot of people know already the name from the media. And tell us, when you founded Yokoy, what do you do? What industry do you tackle, and what is your solution?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me. And it was Elon asking me out for the camping trip, not vice versa. I don't like camping. No. Yeah, about Yokoy, yes. Yeah.
We can talk about it as well.
So at Yokoy, we aim to do zero-touch spend management. So we're a typical fintech company combining expense management, invoice processing, and cards, just making sure that you don't have to, manually look at expense receipts anymore and invoices anymore. We do that for more of the mid-size type of companies, because we are heavily AI-based to really achieve or to get closer to that zero-touch goal. With more data, you just have better options of automating, especially such a problem. So I'm from Ernst & Young as an accountant. That's boring, I know. But I think that has kind of like sparked at the beginning the idea of really changing an industry, changing a process that was heavily paper and manual based. Yeah.
I remember back in the days when I did my apprenticeship, I still had to even glue the little receipts onto the sheet of paper. You remember those days, and then you had to scan it, and then you had to file it in an Excel sheet, send it to accounting, and hopefully they will approve it. And then, let alone if one receipt is a little bit tilted, that they would not approve and they would send it back. So thank you for doing what you're doing. It could have saved my apprenticeship many hours. So very great. So we have fintech, content marketing creation, and health data. AI, let's go a few steps back when you first founded your companies, right? I mean, I think we've heard it a lot this year. If anyone would start an AI company, it's probably like what we've heard years back when people would start a crypto or a blockchain company, right? Without really getting the weeds of it, people would just jump at it and say, okay, let's do it. And I think this is fair to say this is what, at least the momentum we feel this year, we saw it on the graph with AI. But when you started off, the market probably didn't react exactly as enthusiastic as we see it today, maybe. I'd like to start with dacadoo because, again, 12 years ago, that probably has been even a whole different ballgame. What were the early challenges you encountered, feedbacks from your customers when you pitched them a machine learning, AI-based platform to consolidate all the data and even around health, such a sensitive topic?
It's complicated. So actually, well, we didn't start the company thinking about AI much, to be honest. We had this idea to create this indicator of health and wellness in real time. But then obviously, when approaching the subject matter experts, the key opinion leaders in medicine and science, etc., we understood quickly this is going to become complex because you need to gather all this medical evidence and scientific evidence. And then you have studies who are 50 years old, others are 10 years old, and you need to make them work together. And this became very quickly very big. And then obviously we needed to have some elements of machine learning to help us deal with that amount of data, to just come up with the model for this engine. And in the beginning, to be honest, we didn't mention a lot that we used elements of machine learning because we already had a hard time to tell the audience that we were scoring or giving a score to health and wellness. To give you something back, like a temperature scale of where you are in your health and wellness, I find it's a great idea, but not everyone agreed with that idea. So, and we especially were criticized in Germany and Austria and Switzerland also.
What were some comments you got then?
Well, one should not do that, and many other haters of this idea. Interestingly, it picked up first in Asia, because they love to gain points and rebates. And we have a system where you can gain points for healthy behavior, and it's a bit like Miles and More. You then get rewards and things like that. But the scoring engine, when we obviously didn't know yet how to go to market, we were building this engine, and then we had physicians who said, no, you cannot take away my job, you need that. And we said, we don't want to take away your job. So it was a bit a decision, do we go medical, and medical grade product, or do we go lifestyle and have quicker access to data and volume? And on the medical side, as you probably well know, you need to do clinical studies, you have to have a comparison arm, this is complex, there's many, with their own little gardens, political. And then on the lifestyle side, we said, look, if we stay in the health promotion and we don't give, diagnostics and things like, we just keep it high level, we can actually go out there, build up volume and learn from the data and the algorithms. And that's exactly what we did. And around that, we've built a holistic health promotion platform to then use the health just as an indicator of your health and wellness and not exact metric, if you will. And we went really light on the messaging. By now, there's hundreds of scores and wellness scores or fit scores or whatever for scores. And but at the beginning was really hard. And I still admire the founder of the company, Peter Onimus. I mean, he got so many slaps to his face and knockdowns that he still stayed the course and said, this is an important idea, this is a good idea. And now it's actually the reason many B2B clients work with us, because we have by far the most science-based approach to scoring. And yes, but the beginning was hard. And especially then, already in a difficult topic around health and wellness and personal sensitive data, to bring in the topic of we actually use machine learning, then the outcry would have been huge. So we stayed really calm, and we are today even still very careful on where we use that and for what purpose. Because our clients, insurance and things like that, there's laws, very strict laws. You cannot discriminate. You cannot, this is very strict rules in the market to play, and therefore that has been taken into account.
So looking back now, what are the biggest perspectives you had to demystify? One thing I hear now from you is that data cannot do the job better for me as a doctor or as a physician. right? And you know, we live in an era where we now know, or at least I personally believe that if you do have data, you can become a better doctor or a physician, right? But what are other topics which you had to fight against, as in, if you look at it from this black and white perspective, that you shouldn't exist?
Well, the first topic was always around data privacy and security and how is this all stored. And this was really a very, very important topic at the founding of the company, to have a security by design and really be very careful. And we were this, you know, stealth. It was actually very difficult to get into the platform in the beginning because our CTO was so strict around how to get in. It wasn't so fun to get in because you had to make so many authorizations. But then it got easier and controlled opening. But so security, data privacy was a hot topic, and today with GDPR that has actually very much helped, and especially if you're in B2B, there's just some ticks, you know, ISO certifications on privacy, on security, and the GDPR laws that are actually an entry barriers for others, because it's quite the infrastructure and the processes that you need to set up. So that was a topic. And then we are on health promotion. You know, today, if you look at population health, the healthy, the at-risk population, the chronically diseased and the hospitalized, we cover the today healthy but who are inactive, who are not literate around nutrition choices, exercise choices, stress and sleep, and the at-risk population, where we can make like a Netflix recommender engine to bring them to the right services without doing a diagnostic decision. And in that volume of people where we are today, many of you also, the physician actually doesn't get paid to talk about health promotion with them. So they are all seeking, and there are many groups of interest, they're seeking for solutions that help them be better educated and make better choices in lifestyle. And there's definitely at scale, at volume, rule and AI-based, many ticks you can click on attaining that goal. Yes.
So eventually, it is really not to get rid of the professionals in this field. It's really to make their job better and more effective, right?
Correct.
I'm sure something you, Sasha, hear that a lot as well, right? Like, oh, marketeers, content creators, you know, who spent a lifetime building that craft, right? Creativity is something what people said can never be replaced by AI, and yet you tackle that in a way, though, not entirely. So, what are the most common challenges you hear when you pitch Nano? And what is your response to it?
Well, it changes over the years. It has changed quite significantly. When I recall now, when I was listening to you, our first user studies in 2018-19, when actually nobody was talking too much about AI yet, we asked our potential customers, clients, would you trust AI with your ad campaign creation, placement, and continuous optimization? And our potential clients, actually, opinions divided. It was 50-50, that half of them would trust AI with the campaign processes, and the other 50% would not trust, or would trust only if it's assisted, so if they could eventually approve or pre-approve the decisions that AI takes for them. Funny enough, we also looked at the gender demographics, and it was mainly women who responded that they would like to be in control of AI. So we found that very funny back in the days. Nevertheless, that was probably the first challenge that we faced. The second challenge was when we got the funding from the investors, and we started the hiring process. And there was, in fact, not so many computer scientists or AI engineers back in the days, because it was just not very popular. It was already getting to the hype that we know, but it was still far from, you know, we didn't even have PhDs. There were only master or bachelor students on AI. And we still called it mathematical statistics back in the days. So it was really, really, the talent was really hard to find. And what also did not help, that Google was hiring about 200 machine learning engineers around that time as well. So we were, for 6 months, it was absolutely dry talent market. So that was probably one of the main challenges that I remember that was really postpone our development. And of course, the third challenge was the data, because without large data set or significant large enough, you couldn't really build up the algorithms that would perform really well. And that was always the first concern of our clients, how effective AI can be. And it can be only as effective as if you have enough data. So this was perhaps 3 main challenges we faced back in the years. Now we have completely different challenges, but yeah, things are changing every week, basically.
We're going to get right into the challenges of today, yeah. And especially on the data point, it's a statistic I heard a few years back, and I think it still repeats its truth year by year, is that 90% of the world's data existing today was produced in the last 2 years only, right? So there's hope for AI founders out there that if you feel like there's not enough data sets to build a company on, right? There will be more data coming in. Things will be digitalized also, right? So unstructured data will become structured data, and with that, you can suddenly become or build companies on top. So over to you, Phil. Looking back again, when you founded Yokoy, what made, because expense management as an idea, as a process with software, it existed sort of already at that time when you founded Yokoy. What made you believe at that time that AI is going to cut an edge into that market and it's going to give you a competitive edge to it?
Yes, so I mean, with rule-based, you will never get to that zero-touch goal, because the goal is truly to make sure that all those invoice, and there are a lot of invoices coming in for a company, especially mid-sized company. Also a lot of card payments and expenses if you really take all of that together. And even if you have to, and most of the companies, they had some rule-based kind of stuff, RPA, in place, making sure that when an invoice comes in from a certain supplier, they just pay it out, something like that, because this is a trusted supplier. This is not really the most difficult use case, and this is really just covering a small percentage of all use cases there are out there. If you think about, you have different kind of like reconciliations and stuff to do along that entire journey. And it doesn't start with the invoice typically, it starts way before. Imagine you order, I mean, you're in a manufacturing company, you order a ton of steel. A ton of steel ordered, good. That gets shipped to you, and then typically it gets shipped into a couple of different shipments. So you get half a ton first, and the other half is probably still stuck in the Suez Canal. And while the first half has arrived, you might have to pay already part of the invoice or the full invoice, and it's probably not half a ton that has arrived, it's probably 2 containers. So good luck reconciling one invoice, one order of a ton of steel, a couple of containers of shipments that you have received, and all of that you make sure that you pay it on time, that you have it correctly booked in your accounting tool, and you also make sure that you have all the archiving and tracks and logs and all of those kind of things as well in place. So it gets complex very, very quickly, especially when you look at the non-standard process. And it's the exact same thing with expense management. If you just go out for a coffee with a customer, not too difficult of a use case. But if you travel to, I don't know, to the US, your flight gets canceled, then you need another night there, and this is reality, then it gets complex, and that's when you need a tool that's much more than just rule-based. That's one that can actually take a lot of data into consideration and support the decision-making at the end. Is that invoice correct? Do I need to pay that invoice right now? And because we are in the finance space, whatever we do touches money. And whenever it touches money, typically a company is quite conservative in trying out new things. So coming to kind of the founder story, in the beginning, I mean, you'll get a million reasons why your idea should not work. And you should listen to them, because they will obviously give you some sort of an idea of what concerns people have before buying a tool, like, for instance, a Yokoy. But you should never let them stop you, because I mean, if there are concerns, if there are challenges, obviously you can always or almost always overcome them and use them to help really for you to make sure that you address all of these points whenever you go into the next pitch.
I love that, and I always feel every time we talk about Yokoy, your enthusiasm, your passion, right? It's hard not to get on board with that, but anecdotally, can you share us maybe a story where perhaps one of the earlier pitches and you pitched it exactly with the enthusiasm and rightfully so, now we have the success track record, but in the early days, especially for the founders, when they haven't had this like evidence just yet, just the hope and the dream that you know it's going to work, one of the earliest pushbacks you got, it must have felt gut-wrenching, and how did you overcome that? Can you maybe share us a story?
There are a lot, and most of them didn't work out. So obviously in the beginning, you try to do whatever it takes to get a contract. So you try to go and visit the customers or the prospects and kind of put already a lot in place, even though they have not bought the software yet. So you would start programming stuff specifically for prospects. And we actually did fly, I think, 10 hours to a customer, and then we took a rental car to the middle of nowhere, not camping this time. We actually went visiting them. And they really looked at us like, this tool is something we never want to buy because we have our whole family doing our administrative work and we don't want to fire our whole family. We like them. And you're the worst people on the planet. You take the job away of our whole family. And we were there like, we just want to make your lives easier, I guess. So it doesn't always resonate, obviously, but it was a fun trip. We still talk about it a lot. And eventually, in 5 to 10 years, they will be our customers. They just don't know yet. I'm sure.
What a crazy, and then you took the 10-hour flight back also.
Yeah, we did.
What a flight that must have been. So moving to today, we feel the tailwind, right, of the market, right? I mean, we certainly feel it at Google. Right? People who have never even, like that family business you just mentioned, right, who never would have considered AI as something they want to bring into their business, starting now really want to get their hands on and learn about it. So how has the customer landscape changed for you in this year with the market? Do you feel anything? Do people become less challenging on your business? What do you observe from this year?
There's different perspectives. Is it on? Mm-hmm. Yeah. From investor side, if we don't mention AI or machine learning or generative AI, they don't even look at us. I mean, so they obviously tell us the whole time, also our investors in the board, they say, if you use AI or generative, put it on the website, put it there. And so they're very keen that we have it there because it makes the whole proposition more attractive. From the client side, they accept it more and they understand it better. So that's important because they understand where we use it and where we don't use it. So this distinction is very important. And then it's also from the talent side, inside, how to attract talent to the company. They obviously want to work with data science, they want to work with the latest technologies, and they want to work on using AI and generative AI and these kind of topics. So that's also very important that you keep your tech stack attractive for the talents to come. Otherwise, they come it's a hard place, Zurich, to attract talent. So obviously, there's a lot of competition, yeah. And there are different perspectives with different drivers, I would say. But it's much easier to talk about this topic today. Yeah. Also, the cloud. A few years ago, we were in the mountains, deep in the mountains, in a data center with the racks and the cables and
actually physically,
right? And this was a selling argument because it was secure. It was where the Bundesrat, the government had its in the Second World War its bunker, and so we sold that Swissness and security, etc. And then in 2019 things changed. Suddenly, all at least the clients we sell to accepted the fact to go to the cloud, and actually security was only ensured by the big players who invest enough in security to maintain, the trend and all the cybercrime. And so all these local data centers had a hard time. So then we were able to do the move to the cloud. And we were happy about it because for scaling and all these cloud native services you then have, it was a mega change. Yes.
I actually like to refer to one of the comments in last year's episode from actually Felix. You have mentioned that if you don't make sure you have an attractive tech stack, right, that creates a problem in itself, because then you don't attract the talents who can help you build the company out and push the forefront of innovation. Speaking of audience receptiveness, Sasha, I checked out your website a little bit, and there were actually video testimonials, and in one of them, you talked about a test with users you have done of 23 contests or participants, I think, where we showed them different ads, human-created and AI-based created, and the result was that more people preferred the AI-created content. How much of a satisfaction was that when you successfully completed that study and saw the results?
Yeah, the results were quite astonishing. We had created several data sets, ad sets, and we showed it to the clients, to the potential clients, and asked them which ad they like more, which ad they prefer more, text and visuals. And AI won because we knew which ad set was created by AI. This user study was conducted over a year ago, before ChatGPT and everything else. So back in the days, we were already very, very proud of our own technology. I have to admit, we were so proud and excited, but our clients weren't. So it still took us a lot of time to explain what we do, why using AI for marketing is cheaper, faster, and better, and more effective. There were several concerns because corporate clients, they already had the established pipelines and people, personnel who worked on marketing and advertising teams and content creation teams, and they felt like they would be taking away, their jobs would be taken away. Of course, things have changed this year quite dramatically. Our sales cycles are much shorter now with corporate clients, I have to admit. So we don't need to explain what we do. They already ask us to use AI. Okay, sold. So this is our time. We were starting a bit too early. We were lucky that we managed to get very good algorithms in place. Our first 5,000 ad campaigns have been performing already quite well, but not always. We still had a lot of people and staff who needed to do manually to intervene with the campaigns in case something went wrong. But as of March this year, everything is fully automated, and this is, of course, amazing.
And the receptiveness.
This was a huge milestone for us that our team structure is now very, very lean because there is no manual intervention with campaigns anymore.
So it helps you automate also your own processes
exactly
because of the receptiveness of the market. Tell us a little bit how it's going on in the fintech world. Has the receptive changed? Has it remained the same? Are people more critical now because they know actually the power of it? Like, how is it on your end?
I believe they are more aware of what AI and automation in general can do, which is good, I guess. They are more willing to change. They're under cost pressure in a lot of industries. So under cost pressure, and I mean, if you have to cut costs, you would typically look at your back office, and then you would realize that your finance team is way too big. And then you would want to automate them or the processes, which is obviously a good thing for us because they will reach out. They realize that they read into what they can do, what others do. So basically, as Sasha said as well, the time is basically there for companies that leverage AI, applied AI, and that really make an impact. Typically, if you either make them or give them more revenue or less cost, then you're kind of attractive for them. So in either side, you just sell to different people. But so for us, it's a good time. But I mean, I'm a first-time founder. I can't tell you how it was in other cycles. I think what also plays a big role in Yokoy's story is that in the beginning, nobody knew us. If you go there as a no-name, they're like, yeah, what if you don't exist anymore in 5 years or in 2 years or tomorrow? And for us, it's like, yeah, that could actually be. No, that's not what you should tell them. It's like we will always be here forever, or something like that. So these questions don't come anymore. I mean, we have really cool customers like Breitling, the Red Cross, Austrian Airlines, a lot of big brands, and they do help. So I don't really know what it is. Is it the perceptiveness of AI, of automation, the cost pressure, or is it really people knowing Yokoy or trusting us because of all the customers we already have, not being a first mover? There are probably different kind of ways or different kind of options. But for us, I do believe that at the moment, the time could probably not be better, because cost pressure is a big thing. Automating, saving money is something that resonates very well in today's times. But it's not that every day 50 customers come in and say, oh, I want to buy it tomorrow. Where can I sign? Can I pay double? I mean, this is really not how it works. They have, especially with mid-sized companies, by now they're actually quite sophisticated in procurement, in buying stuff. So they do negotiate prices. Sales cycles tend to be quite long because they look at security, certifications, and all of that, which I do believe is fair. I mean, this is, if you want to play in that kind of range, if you want to play in that game, you need to put up with it.
I like how you concluded with this perspective also, because I think it's fair to say this year has been economically challenging for a lot of companies out there, right? But both your comment and Sasha and yours, Phil, you can help them sell more efficiently, right, by creating content more cost effectively, but directly also help them cutting the costs more effectively, right, in economic hardship, yeah.
Cost-saving parameter is of course important, but it's also introducing new revenue streams in our case, because our corporate clients, they can see clearly they can also earn without tool.
Yeah.
And that
Selling
makes
faster,
a difference,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, really, really great. So AI can help you go through tough times, but also help you accelerate in good times also. I could ask endlessly more questions. I think all of you already start posting questions, but where would we be today to talk about AI without a little bit of a perspective of what Google thinks about it, or maybe some Googlers think about it? And as you know, this is also part of the founder story. We always bring a Googler who has a perspective or something to share in this field, in this topic. And today I'm very, very happy to announce my next speaker. And with his fun facts, we already had some celebrity stories today with Elon Musk. He was actually once kissed by Lady Gaga. Yeah, I mean, were you kissed by Elon Musk?
No.
Okay, then the kiss goes to Patrick. Ladies and gentlemen, who thinks it's it's a true fact? Yeah? I'm envy of you, Patrick. Please join us on stage. It's actually correct. Please join us on stage. Patrick Schilling. Great, you join us. That kiss from Lady Gaga, how long was that ago?
Well, listen, Hans, I'm just actually realizing right now that my girlfriend is in the audience today, and I'm not sure I told her that story yet. So, sweetheart, I promise, it was a long time ago.
She wanted that kiss, okay?
And, you know, she was the one who didn't want to call back, so maybe there's a time. By the way, you must have found the only picture that exists of me in the last 10 years when I'm wearing a suit. So,
great. We go a long way to find out things about our panelists, yes. Great, Patrick, thank you very much for sharing your time with us on the stage. Well, Gen AI Customer Activation Lead, that's a bit of a mouthful, so can you tell us what do you do and what does your role consist of?
Yeah, like any good title, it could mean anything and everything. What it means is, and the meaning has evolved a little bit over the years, actually over the year, depending on your chart that you showed earlier around, how often Gen AI was looked for. Like early in the year, I saw the uptick when there was all the hype around generative AI. I saw that live because I was very fortunate to be leading part of the go-to-market strategy off Google Cloud in the generative AI realm in Europe. So talking to hundreds of customers around what their Gen AI ambitions are, what their vision is, what their hopes are, what the technology could do, leading up to the middle of the year when a customer activation lead meant getting a bit more realistic, right? Like what can generative AI actually do? Like what can it also do in a way that's effective and cost efficient to I think Philippe, the point that you mentioned, to now where we're in kind of like the third stage of this hype where the hype has really given way to concrete use cases, right? What are the things that companies want to do, what they want to put into production, how they want to innovate for their end users, for their customers. So customer activation lead now means the great privilege of working with the largest customers in EMEA to make transformational generative AI projects a reality.
Still a great title, I think. I mean, explanation as well as the title, both awesome. No, so that's exactly what you said. You really are at the forefront of the largest company and helping them really jump on that bandwagon, right? And probably that's a secret also all our founders here are trying to crack. Like, how do they help large companies to transform with the power of AI? So from what you've heard today, because you work across different companies, what are the trends you see repeating what you've heard from fintech, content marketing, healthcare? Like what are key trends you see in the form of challenges? Like what are things repeating across the companies?
It's a great question. And what we see really the most successful innovators out there do is move in two speeds with this new technology. Speed number one is what is the large transformational use case that we want to do, the 10x, the moonshot, as we like to call it. And those are typically very, very specific to the industry, but also the customer or the company in itself. I'm sure for each of you three, as you sit here today, like the moonshot idea means something different to each and every one of you. There is, however, a second speed, which is the execute on the use cases that can be executed on in a fast manner and learn from them. Some of the things that we see companies do here are, for instance, around developer productivity, right? You mentioned, there used to be shortage in talent earlier in the days. Like developers nowadays are still not the most easily accessible resource in the talent market out there, and they're certainly not the cheapest one, right? So one of the questions is, how do you use generative AI and the models behind it to make those, smart people even smarter and even faster, right? Through, code development, code completion. There's some other technologies around and use cases around conversational AI, right? One of the really cool things that generative AI offers is it really breaks down the barrier that used to exist between your average Joe that doesn't know how to code, like myself, and like a computer, right? Because back in the days, you needed to be able to code to tell the computer what to do. Now you can tell a generative AI model, hey, I want you to build me an application, and then the AI model kind of translates that into the code itself. And you can even make that conversational, right? So you can interact with the machine, with the computer in a much more human-friendly way, right? And like in this second speed, the, execute on use cases quicker, right? And learn from them. Like we see, companies, just do one after the other. And what's the really cool thing about it is with every small use case that you execute on, you learn, right? And you start to realize value. You get more efficient. The back office gets more efficient. The content creator gets more creative, right? Like the data analysis is performed in an easier, more accessible way. And like right now, what we're seeing in the market is that the first, value gains, like the first cost savings, are already being realized and are used to be reinvested in those big 10x transformational use cases out there?
So two larger trends you observe. On one hand, companies have shifted from trying to demystify the topic of AI, what that even is, to really moving on to a more pragmatism, like let's get it done, let's get our hands on, and let's move on. While at the same time, technology becomes more accessible. It becomes faster, becomes leaner. So innovation in the technology itself is moving faster. So the overall speed increases. Is that something you all feel as well, from the company side as well as the technology side? Open question, yes?
Well, on our side, with Jenna, we're on this operational efficiencies gain at the moment. So we work a lot on, for instance, translations. We can reduce costs significantly by using GenAI, and on the admin portal by the content creation, just by entering a few words, it creates the first draft incredibly well. All these kind of things gain efficiencies. If it's about interacting with users on health choices, it just still makes too many mistakes, so we cannot use it yet. But we follow this very closely because it improves rapidly.
I can speak from a founder perspective. I feel this is a great opportunity for anyone who wants to become a founder and doesn't have access to funds yet. It's exactly how you were saying. Nowadays, you don't need an army of software developers or AI computer scientists to build an app. You can do it basically yourself with a little luck and a little knowledge of how code works. If I would start NANOS today, I would definitely not go to the investors, to the VCs, but I would try to build the first prototype, get it going, get first clients, get to the first product in the fastest way possible without any funding. So the game has changed, and this is incredible times, in my opinion.
Because you've seen the road to a prototype shortened significantly.
Exactly. All the process can be optimized and now can be more effective. Also ways for reaching to clients. You don't need to travel 10 hours anymore, like some of us did in the past, with all the expenses filed quickly. But seriously, nowadays everything has sped up so tremendously. So if you have a great idea, you can really test it, create it, test it, and pivot in a much shorter period of time.
Yeah. Speed as an evidence of innovation, right? Phil, can you share an example where some of your customers uses exactly that to transform and to pivot using Yokoy, for example?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, if in case someone is starting a company, I mean, put GenAI on your investor deck if you go fundraising. If you decide to go that route, and it's, by the way, it's one that you need to think about carefully. I didn't in the beginning. I raised as much money as I could. And I mean, that's not a bad thing, but I realized later what it actually meant. In 6 months, I raised 110 million. And with that, also a little bit of responsibility comes. But what I wanted to say is, by the way, and I put blockchain on it. I don't even know what blockchain means. I put blockchain on because I thought it would be a good idea to have receipts stored on a blockchain, and the investors were like, "Well, that's amazing," and it probably is if you would do it. I mean, I told them that we're not using it because, or at least afterwards, but the AI part is true. But to come to the question. As mentioned, zero touch is our goal, and everyone at Yokoy lives and breathes zero touch. So zero touch is something we have. So the longest customers with us, they're now 4 years with us, and they're somewhere at 80% automation, meaning out of 100 receipts, 100 trips, or 100 invoices, 80 of them, they do not one single person has to touch them anymore. We have achieved the zero touch for them. But 20% is still a lot. I mean, it's still, especially for most companies, even for not too big companies, you talk about 10K, 20K invoices a year. And to get us from that 80 to, you'll probably never get to 100, or never say never, but you will probably not that fast get to 100. We need something like Gen AI. We need the next breakthrough that can help us deal with basically already the outliers. Because now the 20% of invoice or expense documents or card transactions a finance person or a person in an organization still has to look at are outliers. The regular ones we got covered, even the bit more complex ones we got covered. So we need to have support on the outliers, and the outliers already indicate it's not the easy documents, and we need something else there to help us validate, verify, check, and to do that, we are exploring Gen AI at the moment. I'm hopeful.
Perfect, because that was actually the answer to my next question for rounding up this panelist, to draw a future when you have successfully conquered the market. And I think you summed it up with the two words, zero touch, right? If your customer all are able to run the processes so efficiently that they will have zero touch, then you're successful with your customer together. Sasha, in your world, if you have successfully helped your customers with AI, how does that future look like? Can you draw us a picture?
Perhaps that everyone can have online visibility also without technical background, design skills, or a knowledge of marketing or advertising per se. That would be the future. I see it's already coming. I see it already coming. There's lots of automation tools for content creation, for ads creation per se. So not only the big companies with big budgets have chances to succeed, but also any brick and mortar store which had to close in the past, perhaps nowadays will have more chances to get online visibility, to get customers without doing, almost with zero touch, let's say, almost with zero knowledge of marketing.
I love that perspective, and
Just loving your product.
I rounded up with a quote I use quite often. In the past, it was the big outcompeting the small ones, and nowadays it's the fast outcompeting the slow ones. And so if you can help those companies to outcompete the big ones through speed.
Exactly, the ones that are most passionate about their product, what they build, should win.
Wonderful. How does it look like in the interpretation of dacadoo?
From the solution to the customer, to the user, I think in our world, capturing the lifestyle of people, there are still some unsolved areas that don't work yet with background tracking. Like, you bought Fitbit and you have it on your arm, and you do automatic tracking of your physical activity and sleep patterns. That's great, and this is then mass market appealing. But on nutrition or on stress, you still rely on questions because you don't have yet sensors or ways to capture this automatically to make this really not a burden, to interact too much and enter too much data. I think the direction we aspire for is that you have your health coach in your pocket, your ratio little mini-me who has all the data and information on you and your lifestyle and can present you with different choices that you then take the right decision. Because they are often not visible, the things you do, and you don't think about all the things, and that could be a huge and tremendous help, and it's going in that direction.
Wow, it's very profound, as all of us as individuals want to live healthier and better also, right? And being better informed about that, that would be the ultimate goal. Patrick, now to round us up here before we jump into the questions from the audience, from your perspective, you see so many different industries, companies in all different shapes and sizes. If Gen AI is successful, let's do this crazy imaginary exercise. How could that world look like?
Well, I think the jury is still a little bit out on that, and that story is being written. And I actually think the people that are writing that story sit on this panel, sit in the audience, or outside, because with Gen AI, as with every technology, the mantra is really the technology is there to solve problems and to fulfill use cases, and the technology is a vehicle to achieve those things. So, across the year, I mean, the cool things I've seen companies and individuals and founders execute, from a radiologist writing an image recognition model that they made available for free to doctors in developing countries, to a person that was unable to move and to speak, like finally being able to interact through speech to text and text to speech technology with other companies, again, to just your average Joe sitting at home teaching themselves how to code, right? And startup founders using this technology to write that first prototype, to get to that first iteration of the product, to help them write the content that they want to write. So I think if we look a couple of years into the future, let's all imagine that world together. Like for our part, what we'll continue to do is make technology available that is increasingly powerful, that is also increasingly more responsible and used in a way that is ready for both small and large companies to use. But the model capabilities that are out there are gonna keep on expanding. It's text, it's code now. These models can generate music. They'll start to be able to sing songs and maybe produce videos. And it's really up to all of us, more than me, to write that story. And I'm very excited to see that book get written over the next months and years.
Wow. I don't know about you all, but sitting up here, I can't help but feel really excited. The sense of urgency of pushing really out there, and hopefully we get to read that book very soon. As you said, the jury is still out there, and with that, I would like to transition over to a few questions we hopefully got from the audience. And with that, we will switch over to the Mentimeter and see what questions.
Can I share a quick story?
Please, yes.
It just came to mind. That's the most fun story, really. There was probably 1.5 years ago when I pitched Yokoy to an older CFO, and at one time he asked me whether he could see my AI. And I was like, what do you want to see? I was like, and he was asking where it lives. And it took me quite some time. So he thought it was an animal. So I played along. I was like, I feed it very well. I keep it at home, and it's very shy. We might need to make up another call. But it might come and it might not come. It's very shy. It's very moody, and he truly believed it. He came into the next call, and I basically revealed that AI is not our animal, and it doesn't live with us. He was very disappointed. He's now a customer of Yokoy, and he is. Even though I don't know much about AI, I think he has learned much more there. It was actually quite fun. Sorry, I interrupted.
They still exist out there, right? And sometimes in the life of a founder, when in the midst of groundbreaking technology, suddenly you have to answer questions like that. But I love your sense of humor, so never stop bringing that to your pitches. Great, let's switch over to the Mentimeter. Let's see what questions we have here. Number one. All right, Hans. So this is the 11th episode. I never had a question addressed to me. Hans, where did you get your suit? Well, I can tell you it was my wedding suit. I got married this year. So the rest of the story I will tell you outside of the drinks, but thank you very much for appreciating it. I hope my wife does it too. And we're here to talk about suits as well, if you want to. All right, do we have some more questions? Great. What are Google's plans for generative AI? Patrick, do you want to give a few words about that?
I would rather talk about your suit, to be honest with you. But I can try. So, it's been a whirlwind of a year, and I think hardly a week passed without like a bigger and better update out there. I think now that we're in this phase where we're moving a little bit away from the hype, and we're moving into what are the use cases that you can execute, put in production, the real problems that you can solve. the plans are going to solidify. I think for Google, what we're doing is we're very much taking a platform approach where we have our, in the enterprise and in the professional business space, where we do have our Vertex AI platform that allows, practitioners, developers, AI professionals, as well as business users to, go in and do the end-to-end machine learning lifecycle and the AI lifecycle with that platform, all the way from curating the data sets to training your own models if you want to obviously in the generative AI space, making use of our own models such as Palm 2, but also third-party models, right? We want to open them up to, for everyone to really use it and use them also in a responsible way. So I think there are a lot more things to come. Even before the end of the year, I think we'll hear some more around what's coming. But making sure that machine learning and AI is something that can be done from the idea to the actual responsible execution is really the path that Google is embarking upon.
I'd like to also add a little bit, because we both work at Google, so I can give my 2 cents as well. I've said it in a previous episodes before, right? If you think of it from a musical perspective, right? I don't know who knows Adolf Rickenbacher here. No one, right? That is the inventor of the e-guitar as we speak. He's actually from Basel, a Swiss entrepreneur, if you may. But Jimi Hendrix, everyone knows, right? So it's the musicians who take that technology and push it to the boundaries of what it can be interpreted. I think that is the more exciting future, right? The technology is only one part of the equation of how the future will look like. Great. I tried to squeeze in one more question, if that's okay. We got 15 up with that, so let's take the last one. If AI is good as everyone says, and I believe it is, what is the social impact going to be, and why will your company survive? Wow, that's a good question. I actually love it. So let's go through the rounds.
Okay, I go first. Okay. So I do believe that within the next couple of years, it needs us to administrate the entire process and really set it up. But afterwards, I mean, in my opinion, especially when you look at isolated processes or isolated parts, I do believe that AI could potentially do much more than that. And I give you one example. Integrations, API integrations, file-based integrations, probably one of still the more complex topics in most of the organizations, because they buy a lot of tools, then they connect those tools. And connecting them is quite tough because all of the tools, they keep on developing further, and you need to make sure that the integrations, you also develop them further over time, and you have hundreds of them because you have hundreds of tools. So what AI, however, can do, not fully yet, but what we have been experimenting with is doing integrations based on AI. So basically telling them, look, that's the data that comes out of tool A. That's kind of how tool B works. So just feed the data from tool A into tool B correctly. It's all what an integration does. And maybe do something in the middle in case you have to. And AI is already capable, at the moment, very simple integrations, but AI is already capable of making or creating those integrations completely in itself. And this is spooky, but it's reality. And once we have cracked certain processes, once we have cracked talking between the tools, then I do believe that AI has the potential to automate much more than single processes or single teams. And really go much further. So, how do we survive? I'm lucky that I'm early in the process. So I hope that whenever AI takes over, I will be on an island somewhere. I will not care anymore.
With Elon Musk, yeah.
With Elon, I'll ask him.
Well, in my opinion, behind every company, surviving or not, there's always humans behind it. So as long as humans are passionate to carry on with this company, I still believe there's lots of space for everyone, no matter what idea, good or bad. Sometimes not the best ideas survive, but the fastest, or the ones that has the company that has bigger team that believes in what they do, what they're passionate about. But to be completely honest, if I would be an investor nowadays, I would be really struggling in making decisions what kind of company I would like to invest next, because I feel the landscape will change quite significantly. There will be lots of companies coming out, lots of startups, lots of founders, because the AI enables to do things faster, experiment faster, fail faster, cheaper. So I believe in the end, we cannot automate away the founders. So the founders will still be needed for sure. And the companies they create also will be needed in the long term.
Well, what I would add to that, to what has been said before, is, I'm in a super conservative industry. So provided it's accepted by the market, that at the end of the day, I sell to the market and to clients. So if this is accepted, I think the roles in the company will just change, because there are roles that today, produce that in the future will be automatically produced by the engine. And but I still think there's a role for the human being in many areas of this engine, or in general a company entity. But in many ways, I think the roles will change, the professions will change. Yes, because it will just be, as you mentioned, the radiologist example. A radiologist today, the engine beats him 10-1, I believe, already. And but he's still the guy who needs to operate. So he will always be there, but he will have the right companion or co-pilot, as you call them in development, that will help him to make the decisions much better. But he is still the hand worker, so he still needs to do that, and the AI will never do that in that way.
Thank you very much for giving us a little bit of imagination, how that could look like. So we've been stretching the time minute by minute by minute, but you guys have been a really, really fantastic panel today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope the crowd enjoyed it too. Please give it a round of applause for the panelists today. So it was a very pleasure hosting you all. Manuel, thank you very much. Sasha, you've been great. Phil, really amazing stories. Thank you so much. Patrick. Thank you very much.
And huge applause to our MC of tonight, Hans, as well.
So with that, you can take a seat. So we will round up. You can take a seat back, enjoy, lean back. Thank you very much for really sharing your stories, your perspective. I know sometimes we push your perspective, the audience push your perspective a little bit to imagine a world we can't even think of what the reality is. And again, you all have been wonderful tonight. Thank you so much. And I promise I won't hold you back any further from here to the drinks. So there's a few things we're going to wrap up very quickly. You know the drill. This is the probably most important slide. It was your feedback which keeps us going. Take a picture if you don't have time to scan it, because I'm really going to go fast now, because I don't want to hold you up. You have been wonderful tonight. And the second picture you're going to take tonight is this one. I meant it. I was fast. So it's really cool that we have not just startups here today, but also people coming from a big company and a corporation. And it's exactly this community we want to bring together, because sometimes that's exactly where we can learn from each other how big corporations are struggling with certain things where maybe there's already a startup solving this problem. So outside you will then see stickers, which you can feel free to put on your guest badge, and they will be handed out or lying around at the table. And then the last QR code for the AI startups here in this room, that's a very special Christmas treat we have for you. Actually, we launched it earlier, but take this away, because there's a Google for Startups program specifically even for AI startups. And I'm very happy to say that NANOS is in that program where you receive really great support from the Google ecosystem. So take a picture if you are an AI startup and it could be beneficial to you. So having said that, let's wrap it up. Who has been here last year for this one? Ah, okay, so you maybe know what that was. So as I said last year also, Googlers comes with all shapes and sizes and multi-talents. And last year we even managed to bring an entire Google choir here onto the stage. They do this as a hobby and they sang it for you and send you off to the Christmas season. We didn't manage to get them this year. Sorry. But we didn't stop. We were searching and searching and searching and really tried to find any talent. So I want you to meet Mathieu or Matt. So he's a Googler, 5 years now, meanwhile, with us. And during the day, or by daytime, he is a software engineer, working really hard on protecting all our user data to the highest standard. Probably not with this computer, but he actually does that. During nighttime, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to introduce you to DJ Adonai. He actually performs on a regular basis here in Zurich in different nightclubs. So on the 22nd of December, please check him out in the club Max if you have never been there, and check out his performance. But why would we tell you about DJ Adonai or Matt tonight if we wouldn't have this little special treat for you? So I'm trying to look into Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big wave to Matt. So, with that, having said that, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful year. You all have been a wonderful crowd. We will send you off now to the drinks. Grab a drink outside, put the sticker on your badge, mingle with each other, exchange your stories amongst each other, ask our panelists any more questions you wanted to ask, and also enjoy DJ Adonai in the room next door where Founder Story actually began, and have a wonderful night and see you next year. Thank you very much.